Hey, welcome to Storypower TV. I am your host, J Loren Norris. And, sometimes we like to get loud and sometimes you just got to chill. And sometimes you have to insert something into your chill to make it a little louder. An example might be when you go to Six Flags and it's 147 degrees outside in Texas and your shoes are melting to the concrete when you're walking. You want that little lemon chill, but you don't want just a watered down popsicle. You want the tart one that you got to dig into with a spoon and it might break your spoon. And there are people like that. There are people that are like, they're really sharp and they're really tart and they really get your attention and they really stand out. And then there are people that are so subtle, they like a wallflower fade in the background. And I'm not going to tell you which one is next. I'm J Loren Norris for Storypower TV, and we have got a guest today on set with us in our hidden location in Dallas. And we are going to have a conversation about what it means to move the spotlight and stop trying to stand in it yourself. And when I introduce this person, you're going to think to yourself, oh, yeah, they know what it means to move a spotlight. And I'm going to tell you before we get started, yeah, they do. Help me welcome Devin Schubert, the Orange Man, to Storypower TV. Hey, Devin.
Hello.
Glad to have you here.
Pleasure to be here.
How do you like that setup?
That was great.
You ever been called lemon chill?
No, especially because I wear orange. When you said lemon, I'm like, who is he talking about?
The thing that I love about the lemon chill is that, especially when it's hard enough, it's frozen well enough that you got to scrape the spoon across and you get almost like an icy type of a texture, but it's still got the punch of the lemon and the cool of the chill all together. That's what makes it refreshing.
Yeah.
And I think in this world of overly, I don't want to say regulated, overly produced, everything from social media with 47 filters on it. I watched a woman do a meme the other day where her kids were standing behind her holding up a number of fingers. And she was guessing how many fingers they were holding up. And they could see the video of her looking at the camera and her eyes were closed. But her eyes weren't closed. It was a filter. It was so overproduced. It was intentionally deceiving.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I see people in our industry as speakers and coaches and motivators that they are so overproduced, it's deceiving.
Yeah.
I mean, they've done everything they can to go, whoa, look at me. They jump into the camera and all kinds of crazy antics just to make you look. And then when you're done, you realize it was kind of like that game in high school when it made you look and you get a punch in the arm. You're like, what'd you do that for, right? When I first saw you walk into the room in your orange head to toe, orange jacket, orange shoes, orange socks, orange shirts, orange polos with jeans, something orange every time, I thought, this guy likes attention. But then you told me about being on stage with Willie Robertson, and I thought, how do you upstage Willie Robertson? And then you told the story.
Yeah.
So you're going to have to share that story.
I was on stage with Willie Robertson. We were doing a dance.
There you go. See, I told you.
It was a dance contest. And I was here at this event just sitting there. And I was going to be
the audience. You were there as an audience.
I was there as an audience member.
They didn't call you and say, hey, we need a motivational speaker up here with Willie. Right?
Yeah. I was sitting in the front row. I know how to show up to an event.
So you bought a ticket. You didn't get paid to go.
I bought a ticket. I sat in the front row. I was there just to receive.
In orange.
In orange, because no matter what, I'm gonna show up. I'm gonna represent. And so they did a presentation to where they did a dance contest, and I got called up on stage, and I was up there swinging my jacket around because, like you said, I like to draw attention.
You got to get attention.
I like to draw that attention. So here I am swinging it around and around, and the crowd's just going crazy, and I'm soaking it in like I know how to do this.
And inside you're going, I won, right?
And the winner got to spend time with Willie Robertson afterwards.
Which is why you were up there in the front.
Gosh, yes.
Okay.
He's one of my heroes.
Okay.
Until this kid started running down the aisle. And the first thing is like, okay, he's being disobedient. But he wasn't. What I noticed was my son. Now, this wasn't my son, but he resembled my son. He had some mental health challenges. He was obviously on the spectrum.
Okay.
Comes up on the stage, and I recognized at that moment, mid-swing of my jacket, this moment wasn't about me. This moment was this boy needed to be seen. He needed to be heard, and he was desiring to be loved. And this was my opportunity to help him have that.
So inside, did you have that moment where you're like, oops, almost made it about me, but it's really about him? Or was it a moment where you were like, okay, I'm in a special position to be able to move the spotlight, so to speak, and get the rest of the world to notice him?
Mm.
Was it one of those, two of those, or both of those?
Yeah, I would say as soon as I saw him, I recognized this whole thing has got to be about him. It didn't even cross my mind that I needed to still win.
Okay.
And this was a whole representation of what my relationship is with my son, that I had given everything for him. And so during that time when he came up on stage, it was a no-brainer for me to grab the rest of the contestants and to go around him and to start clapping our hands and watch him win that contest.
So where was Christ in that whole scenario in your mind?
Yeah, Christ was right there showing him that this person needs to be loved. They want to be seen, and it was as a father, as Jesus was representing his father. Now it's my opportunity to represent Christ to his son, and to be able to say, you are loved, and you are deserved to be seen. Your story needs to be heard. You get the prize to be with Willie Robertson.
And did you feel disappointed that you didn't get the prize?
I'll tell you that if I would have won, I would have felt very disappointed, but I didn't. I won on the inside of me, and I got to watch
because you didn't get the prize with Willie
'cause I
Robertson, but you did get
correct.
to see the kid get it.
Right. I got to
Hand off complete.
hand it off, and allow him to celebrate that time, and that was the complete fulfillment for me.
So at that moment, you just went home. It was all done. It was all over, right?
No, it wasn't. It wasn't. Later on that day, the keynote speaker had walked off the stage, and during that time, he was talking to us about his purpose.
You don't mean walked off the stage like he was done. You mean like walked off the stage into the crowd.
He walked down the stage as he was talking, so he was still in the middle of his
But right into the crowd. Okay.
Right into the crowd.
Right.
And he was sharing about how he was an orphan and how he came through trauma and all the things that he had gone through in order to be the successful businessman that he was today. And when he got down there, he asked for a volunteer to share about why they do their business. And of course,
he saw the orange helicopter.
Yeah. He saw the
hand
up, me. And I stood up, and he handed me the microphone. As he kind of started to walk away, I shared about my 3 adopted children and that how I'd given everything for them. And this is why I do my business, so I can leave a legacy for them. And he turned around and he ran to me and he gave me the biggest hug. As he grabbed the microphone, he actually sat down in my seat and he said, I want you to finish the story. And he handed me the microphone.
And you went, I win, right?
I did not. I did not. At that point, I was so humbled. A keynote speaker had given up his time for me to share my story about the legacy that I'm leaving for my children. Now, people had spent thousands of dollars to be there, to represent, to have ads, to maybe put a logo up on the screen, to be a sponsor. They didn't get to share anything. And yet here I get 5 to 10 minutes to share whatever I want.
And what was the win then?
The win at that moment was that I got to tell the world about my story, about my kids, and that I was able to reap something that I had sowed. I had sown allowing somebody else to be seen. And this keynote speaker, he wasn't there when we were doing the dance off. He didn't know that this had happened. And now he was giving back out of a place that he didn't even know he needed to.
So what did you tell the crowd to do when you had that moment? I mean, it's hard enough to buy stage time in a reputable audience, right? Like you said, you can spend thousands as a sponsor and you don't get a single minute. Mm-hmm. There are people who pay $5,000, $10,000, $20,000 just to get 2 minutes on the stage to say, please come see me at my booth.
Yeah.
So for what you got, $20,000 worth of stage time, what did you do with it?
Yeah. I spent the whole time talking about my journey with my kids. I spent about how my son had been through some mental health and troubles and the struggles that we went through, my near-death experience. and now how I'm building a business to pass on and to build legacy for other families. And so other people don't have to go through what I went through. I don't even know if I gave a call to action to my own business. And it wasn't about that. It was about leading up to what his purpose for his keynote was the purpose and the identity of why people do their business. And I felt like I fulfilled that for him.
So did you help people ask and answer the question for themselves? Why do you do what you do?
Say that again.
Did you help people for themselves to ask and answer the question, why do you do what you do?
Yeah. Yeah. It was an example. Yeah.
Why do most people do what they do?
I feel like a lot of people, like we started off with, a lot of people do what they do for themselves. They step out, they want to be the center of attention. And I feel like sometimes it's just a small shift. And sometimes it can be an experience, a choice that they make to recognize that this isn't all that it was cracked up to be. Starting off as an entrepreneur, we start off for a couple of reasons: time freedom, financial freedom.
Right.
And as entrepreneurs, the worst things that we usually have is time freedom and financial
Yeah, the
freedom.
two things most limited, right?
Yeah.
They say success is when you can do what you want, with who you want, when you want, where you want, and nobody can stop you. And most of us don't reach that level of success.
Yeah.
I think one of the things that I have discovered in my own journey as an entrepreneur, as a small business owner, sometimes with a team of people, and sometimes it's just family and I, what I've discovered in that journey is that we might strive and find some success, the financial success, the right amount of money in the bank, the right kind of car, the right kind of house. Everybody around us is looking at us going, wow, look at you. And yet there's no fulfillment.
Mm.
How do you contrast that success, that why I do what I do, the purpose, with the identity of I'm fulfilled, I am the kind of person I'm supposed to be?
Mm-hmm.
How do you find the tension between those and resolve that?
Yeah, it's a great question. After that conference, when we were done, I got to go backstage with the keynote speaker and Willie Robertson. And they said to me, Devin, you know how to own the stage. You know how to own the room, but you don't own it for yourself. You own it for the kingdom.
Okay.
Don't ever lose that.
So is that fulfillment?
That was fulfillment. Fulfillment and a reminder that if we don't have clarity of our identity, if we don't have clarity of our assignments, of our purpose, of our fulfillment, how can we really walk in that?
So would you say then that fulfillment is right up there with like core values, foundational principles? Because those are the why you do what you do. I mean, if you don't know what your foundational principles, what your core values are, you do whatever comes. You compromise at every opportunity. You're driven by the money or by the influence or by the name ID or by the number of followers on your TikTok page.
Mm-hmm.
And there's nothing wrong with any of those, except that if that's all that drives you, if that's all that motivates you, and there's an opportunity to trade out what you believe for more of those: money, influence, TikTok followers, whatever, then you get easily corrupted and compromised.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So how do you balance those? How do you build in safeguards so that you're operating within that realm of responsibility, of assignment, of core values, and not pursuing the things that cause corruption?
Yeah. So when I help people start off their social media, the first question I ask them is, what is your identity that you're going to show up on social media as?
Okay.
And what that does is it helps people find that heart posture. Who am I going to show up? Who am I going to represent as myself? And that helps us to keep that authenticity of who we are, why we're doing it. What is our alignment to when we show up in the social media?
Now, what's the difference between that and a brand?
Of the alignment and a brand?
What's the difference between someone's identity and a brand?
Yeah, so I think when it comes to being on a brand, it focuses on the overall picture of who you are, of what people walk away thinking of.
Mm-hmm.
And then when it comes to your alignment, it's where are you able to open up and be more vulnerable? Where are you able to be more authentic? And maybe it's kind of like an inner circle type of thing. When I'm overall talking about a brand or on a big stage, I probably wouldn't open up and share every single small detail about that, about who I am as a branding. But when it comes to an authentic or with my core group or with a smaller inner circle, I'm able to open up and share more about my vulnerability and build those relationships at a deeper level.
Would you agree that some people, their influence, their branding, their identity is a veneer?
When you say veneer,
something that covers over to give you an impression, but it's not true.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
How do you detect those?
Oh, a lot of times when it seems too good to be true, it's too good to be true.
It probably is. And what about the idea, there are people out there who have 50, 60, 70,000 followers and they're bots.
Yeah.
They're not people.
Yeah, and that's a big thing right now. And I believe that a lot of people feel that being an influencer is about having a ton of followers.
Is it true?
You can have a ton of followers and have nothing. There's a lot of Facebook and social media things out there that have hundreds and thousands of followers, but they're not making sales. They're not making any engagement. If you don't have followers, if you have followers and you don't have any engagement, it's worthless. If you don't have people that are interacting with you, they're not actually building an authentic relationship with you. They're not really caring about what you have to say or what you're really speaking about. You're not really adding a ton of value to them because they're not able to ask questions. And if they do, as you were talking about the AI bots and things like that, they're so easily to detect on social media because number one, Facebook and all the social media platforms have an AI bot to detect if there's an AI bot.
Oh, well, it takes one to know one.
Right. It's a good relationship.
Y'all deserve each other. Okay, so having studied leadership for over 30 years, one of my mentors, heroes in that category is John Maxwell. One of his most prolific quotes is, leadership, it's influence, nothing more and nothing less. And from that viewpoint, I talk a lot on what is influence. What's the purpose of it? What does it do? Who does it affect? Why do you want it? And I often kind of point to the influencer that has a whole lot of followers. And I have my own opinion of that I'll be glad to share, but I'd like to know what is that true influence, and what's the difference between that and influence if it's not?
Mm-hmm. When I see a lot of people having a large following, are they depositing something that's transforming lives? An influence should happen to change people's lives that then they would continue to pass that on to other people.
Okay.
So we talk about John Maxwell. Love John Maxwell and the things that he's doing. I believe that his influence, even though he doesn't have relationships with a lot of people, he has the relationships with the people that are coming underneath him to duplicate himself. That's influence. He's also duplicating himself, giving that opportunity. And he's also doing that through social media and anybody who's putting those things out there in an authentic way.
So I was in the Congo in 2016 and 2017 or 15 and 17. And when I was there, I remember walking into a nightclub. Now in the morning, I'd been in a 5-star hotel, marble tiles, security guards at every hallway entrance, the whole 9 yards. That evening, I'm in a nightclub that was on a part of town that we rode in a cab, and the cabbie pulled over and he's like, y'all should get out now because I don't drive to that part of town. It's too dangerous. And my paley white self and my translator and his girlfriend walked another 5 miles into the part of town that the cabbie wouldn't go. And we went to a nightclub in that part of town where the cabbie wouldn't go. And then my interpreter, who was the only one that spoke the local languages, and his girlfriend left me. So here I am in my lily white skin and my pink shirt, standing in the middle of a nightclub, and a guy walks up to me as I'm sitting at a table by myself. And he's yelling over the music, but he's not speaking English. I have no idea what he's saying. He's got these giant round glasses on. And I thought he was scolding me for sitting at his table. And so I apologized. I'm like, dude, I don't know what you're saying. I don't even know how to talk to you. I got nothing. And he slams his hand on the table. He leans away and he goes, I'm so glad you speak English because I hate yelling in Lingali. And I was like, great. Then he introduces himself, says that my interpreter is one of his friends, and we spent the next 4 hours talking. Mm-hmm. And about a year later, I see a Facebook post, and it's this guy, CJ, and a cover of a book. And the image next to it is my first book. and it's covered in fingerprints and greasy, dirty prints, and the pages are all fluffled and cornered dog ears sticking out everywhere. And in the text, after I hit translation, it said, if I had never read that book, I would have never written this one.
Wow.
And I thought, I've been to the Congo twice to train the parliament. I've done leadership training over there. I've been to Cuba and Brazil and other places for that purpose. And yet the one kid that I sat with in the pub, in the bar, in the local dive for 4 hours, that's the one who took what I had to say to heart immediately and transformed his life, and then expanded that transformation into the lives of other people. It's not the 500,000 followers. It's not the views on the video when I look at it and go, oh, that one's got 10,000 views. That one's got 2 views. What's the difference between them? Those things are important, but that's not what I make my decision based on. I make my decision based on that one question. Did it transform somebody's life?
Yeah.
So when I ask the question, what is influence? I believe you're the one that has kind of that stack of its leadership, then its legacy. Is that right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so help us understand what it means to build the kind of influence that transfers into that kind of life transformation. Not just I got the followers, but I've actually made a difference in somebody's life that's tangible, detectable, and you could report on it.
Yeah. Yeah. So as we talk about building social media platforms, we don't just post out just what we call value posts, where you're just putting out a ton of content just for content's sake. We have different ways that we put out content. And it's about what are the results that you're getting, that other people are getting through you. What are the value posts, the teaching posts, but then what are the lifestyle posts? Those are the ones that I believe that most social media influencers are missing. Is, hey, you know what? And I'm not talking about, we're going to go out to a pink restaurant and share all types of pictures of our little tiny meal, and people are interested in that. No, it's about a story of how we're having a conversation here, and the conversation that we had, because this is real life. And I believe that as we share real life with people, that is that transformation that helps people say, hey, you know what? That J Loren, he's real. I can relate to him. And if all we do is put out value, teaching, we lose that personal touch. That's where the engagement comes in. That's where you can really get the followers. That's where you can really turn the followers into fans, and the fans into paying clients.
Because it's about having not just authenticity, but application. And, I run into so many people, they've got the hype, they've got the paid ads, they've got the circulation, so to speak. Everybody sees it, everybody buys into it. They're like, yeah. And then they jump on board and realize it's hollow. There's actually nothing there. It's a great facade. It's great veneer. But if you were to call that person at 3 o'clock in the morning, you're not going to get them. I have coaching clients literally that text me at midnight. I don't think they expect me to answer at midnight, but they know they're going to be at the top of the list when my phone comes on the next day. And then I'm going to respond to them, because they're not talking to some megalith organization. They're not talking to an AI bot. They're not talking to my email system. I don't have an email that says support at. If you email me, you email me. Now, my wife may read it before I do, because she reads my messages. She has a private login to every device that I own to hold me accountable. So she may see it before I do. She might read it and go, yeah, you should get back to them. Or it was nothing, it was spam. Not that she's filtering what I'm saying, but she's paying attention. But aside from that, there's not 20 people making a decision whether or not you're important in my life. If you've got my email address, you're going to get a response. If you got my text message, you're going to get a response. I can tell you, and I'd love to know what your input on this from a practical standpoint is. I put out a podcast a couple of years ago. I'm sitting in Starbucks, and I get this really long Facebook message. And it's just dripping with vitriol. And at the bottom of this really long, I had to scroll up my laptop 3 times to read this whole message. I get to the bottom, homie's put his cell phone number on there. And so I called it. And he answers, and I said, hey, this is J Loren Norris. He goes, no, it's not. And I'm like, it is. I'll tell you what, call me back. I'll answer, and you tell me if it's me. And he's like, why are you calling me? I said, would you put your phone number in the message? He said, what? I said, Leading Leaders Podcast, the message this morning, you had a long something to say about it. He's like, oh, and you called me? I'm like, well, you put your phone number in it. He said, well, it was just to prove that I wasn't an AI bot. I said, well, obviously you had some beef with what I said. Let's talk about it. He's like, are you serious? I'm like, why did you write the message? He said, well, I would never expect you to reply. I'm like, why not? He said, because we don't think alike. I said, interesting. Tell me why you think that is. And so he gave me a litany. And then I explained to him how I know that we have some common ground. And when I finished telling the story that illustrated we had common ground, he went silent for like 10 seconds. I'm like, are you still there? He's like, yeah. I said, why so serious? He said, now I know why I'm on your email list. Okay. He said, I was in that audience you were talking about. Mm. I thought there was no chance we would have common ground. But when I heard you teach that day, you blew me away with the fact that you were willing to accept what I believe, even though it's not what you believe. Mm-hmm. You were willing to give me the dignity of my own opinion. Yeah. And I said, okay. He said, that's why I've been following your podcast. I said, okay, now put what you said about what I said today in context and ask yourself, is it true? He said, no, it's not. Mm-hmm. I said, okay, so where do we go from here? He said, I will not unsubscribe. I will continue to follow because you're still challenged the way that I think. I said, and the comment? He said, I'm going to leave it and add to it. Fair enough. Because I'm not asking you to not agree with what you said, but I am saying it's worthy of a dialogue and that dialogue is worthy of public consumption as much as your argument is. And he still follows me. Wow. So would you recommend an approach like that, or was that way overboard and unnecessary for creating influence, legend, and legacy?
Yeah, it's absolutely the exact approach that I would take and that I would suggest people take, because there's two things that we always need: honor and respect, whether you agree with somebody or not. If you don't have that conversation, it's just going to continue to negate them, or they're going to continue to come against you.
Right.
And if you can clear that water by a simple conversation, why would we not do that? Why would we not show them honor and respect of, hey, I see you. Thanks for taking the time, or something else taking the time to write this for me,
right,
for them, and clearing the air, clearing the water.
So in the realm of what you do as a coach, I know what you're trying to do is help people build influence for the purpose of building their exposure, for the purpose of building their business. But in the realm of that, authenticity, integrity, those things are huge. Who is Jesus to you, and why do I care?
Yeah, Jesus is absolutely everything to me. From the beginning of my life to growing up as a Christian to having a life that has been miraculously healed. Without Jesus in my life, I would have no reason to be pouring into other people, and I wouldn't want to be pouring into other people.
So, is he a wise man? Is he a prophet?
He is, I am.
He is, I am.
He is everything. And when I look at Jesus, what I see is the heart of my Father, the heart of the Father in heaven. And that's because that he is the visual representation of him. And as I go on my life being a father, that is exactly the replication that I want to have. It's the heart of the Father through Jesus.
And that's the purpose for influence that leaves a legacy.
Amen. Yes.
Anything I didn't ask that I should have?
I don't think so. It's good.
Any last words you'd like to share with the audience?
I would say the number one thing is making sure that you lead out of a heart space and not out of a head space. Because when we lead from our heart, we'll always expand the kingdom anywhere that we go.
If somebody wanted to reach out to you and learn how they could grow a greater influence on their social media, how would they find you?
Yeah, devinschubert.com or any social media platforms, but devinschubert.com. Devin Schubert, DevinSchubert.
Is there any relationship between orange sherbet and Schubert?
You know, I got asked that all the time in high school and all the time in college.
Orange.
And it does taste good, but there's not.
Oh, okay. I love rainbow sherbet and I love orange sherbet. I appreciate you being here, Devin.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thanks, sir. If you've been watching this episode and you're asking yourself, I thought this was a religious channel. I thought this was a religious TV show. What's this whole talk about influence and impact and legacy? Yeah, it is. And if you find yourself as a believer, asking yourself, where's the theology in this? You haven't read it enough. You need to read it again. Go ye therefore, make disciples, preach the gospel, make disciples, teach them my way. That's influence with integrity and authenticity. And if you're not living it, don't bother saying it. Nobody's paying attention anyway. That's influence at its best. And that's kind of what's expected of you. If you're living that kind of life, keep it up. And if you want to grow that, figure out who Devin Schubert is, the orange guy. He might have an impact in your life as well. I'm J Loren Norris with Storypower TV for Tell It Like It Is. Have a blessed day.
Hi, my name is Knowles, and I just got done taking J Loren's Storypower Masterclass. It was amazing. I took away so much information. One of the things that I really enjoyed being formally trained in media many years ago is the call to action. I will use that with every speaking engagement, and I'm so grateful that Loren just spoke truth into his teachings, and he is a true professional. And I know this might sound weird, but I've been taking certifications in different classes over the years, and Loren is not boring. I can't even believe I got here at 9, and then the class went by so fast that I was like, it's time to go already? And I was shocked that it was time to go already. So it's an awesome class. You're going to enjoy it, I promise.